back here live for another breakdown here. And tonight's breakdown is going to be about the incoming snow potential here for tomorrow night into New Year's Day. It's not really, it's kind of like a 2 or 3 day system, but it's really going to, I think, surprise some people based on what the expectation is in the forecast right now for many, which is not shocking. If you don't really deep dive into this, then you're not going to really see some of the nuances that are going on behind the system. And again, I could be wrong potentially, but in my opinion here, I think there's something. I think there's something the track here that really could almost act like a mini snowstorm. To be honest here, so kind of an interesting system to track here. And then we're also going to be talking about the upcoming pattern after as well. Some thoughts about that. We can really deep dive into that. As I'm going to put the link onto X here. I'll open up the chat in a second. Excuse me. Alrighty, let's get the chat going here. Bermani, how we doing? How we doing as well? Kevin, how we doing? Michael Phillips, welcome. Okay. Let me know, how did you guys get the update? I'm curious just to see did you get the notification, or did you see it pop up in your timeline? Let me know how you're seeing it, because I am curious. So I want to be able to, when I do post a link or when I go live, I want it to get out as quick as possible to you guys. So RHB, how we doing, my man? How we doing? So you can let me know if you were a Noti gang, you were a timeline, YouTube Noti came through. Thank you, Bermani. You get X notification, awesome. Yes, but I was watching. You were waiting for the time. That means a lot. Yeah, sometimes the YouTube notifications don't go through. I've noticed that for when I'm looking at other channels that I'm interested in as well. I noticed that too. So if you hear anything in the background, it is more than likely either me taking a sip of my drink, or it is my dog currently unable to wind down at the moment. Yes, the infamous Tatum that has been in some of these live updates over the past several days. The crazy 75 pound golden retriever that is taking, he could take the internet by storm potentially one day, but so yeah. Michael, notification, awesome. So here's what we're gonna do here is we're gonna break things down, and then we're gonna make a threat map. It might act kind of like a snow map, and it will probably surprise some people what I do out here, but not after we discuss things. I think it will be a little bit more clear. I really think this event here is they come like when you're like halfway through the stream. Oh, that's unfortunate, but I'm glad it worked this time at least. So yeah, so usually I'm pretty good with him when I put those messages out. Always check the posts, the YouTube posts. Always check. You can check the X posts now as well. It won't be quite the same, probably a little less free. Well, during storms, it may not look all that different because we just happen to post a lot during storms. You guys that were in YouTube that came over that noticed that we still posted a lot during storms into those posts to go along with those video updates and those live streams. But the meteorologist kid. Welcome. Uh, so, you can look for that. And I'm usually pretty good at being close to within those time frames. Sometimes it's a little sooner. Sometimes most more than not, it's just a little after, but not usually so long after. It's usually, this time was within about 10 minutes, of when I said I would start live. So keep that in mind. That I usually will start, within close to those time frames that I say. But then again, if I have something pressing personal that I'm trying to address in the moment, I'm always going to put my intention towards that before you guys. No offense, but if it's something with my dog, my family, or anything else, I'm going to put that. Friends, sometimes close. Well, I'm going to put that above usually what's going on here, just for the second, and then but that doesn't mean we don't live stream. Very, very little do you guys notice. I try to stay consistent with my word. It's important to me. If I say we're going to live stream or put a video out, like 90 to 95% of the time we do. So without further ado, though, we will get cooking here. And this is kind of what we got going on. I know some people are probably looking at this and going, well, this doesn't look like too much here. Brady, what do you, just looks like a simple light snow event. And you would think that, except the snow that falls is probably not going to be light here for many people. And that is, one of your first giveaways here of this system. And it's the duration as well for this system as well. That intrigues me. It's not like 2 to 3 hours. It's longer than that. Well, depends on where you live, but with this system here, yeah, Tatum, you can't just stare at me and want to play right now. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that as he squeaks his toy. Yeah, go play over there, my man. Go play over there. You're spinning in circles. Oh, jeez. I'm glad you love the Tatum videos, Bramati. And with the system, though, there's more to it. There's more to it. What have we been talking about, guys? Late fast flow is hard for models to sample. It is hard for models to sample here. And what we have here is, now listen, guys. What's really a shame about to the point we've gotten here is this is very close to a significant snowstorm. Very close to a significant snowstorm for these places here is the point we've gotten to now, where with guidance playing catch up here. And I had to rely on guidance a little bit more than I wanted because we were so obsessed, with the snowstorm, the Boxing Night snowstorm, then the ice storm happening a couple days later. Really wasn't much time, if it wasn't obvious, there wasn't a lot of time. And we discussed this, obviously, fast flow, keep an eye on this stuff, but here's the thing. You look at 500 millibars and it tells a story here. It absolutely tells the story. Slide back here and we'll go to the AIFS. And what you've been noticing here is, as it goes to hour 66 right away, which is fantastic. Little short wave. Keep an eye on this. Some flurries during the day tomorrow possible. Keep an eye on this, especially out here over a lot of these places. Keep an eye on some potential flurries. But the second part, well, I don't want to say the second part. And then the main part of the system rolls through. This is a dynamic 500 millibar vort profile. Will produce heavy snows throughout these regions, guys. Very heavy snows. Will be an all-out snowstorm for a lot of these places here along the lakes. Very notable. And then in between that, snow squall line. Snow squall line as this comes through. So this will pack a punch for at some point for many people here. This will get squally. There'll be some notable accumulations along the lakes, significant, and you'll have some surprise pockets across PA, Jersey, Hudson Valley probably as well, of the squalls. Then you start swinging through here and you start tilting the axis of the trough and you start amplifying an upper level low along this area. And this is where the intrigue comes. It's right before this time frame, but you see what the product turns into here. And this is what gets me intrigued about some of these places as well in down East Maine. This could turn into an all-out snowstorm for them. And really, For others as well, I do believe in southern New England, this could act as like a mini snowstorm for a very small area. Now, it's not this massive dig. It's not this. We're not digging all the way down, but it's an Arctic front. And these are potent and they're along the front. You're not trying to worry about, oh man, how much, is there going to be frontogenesis? Yes, when an Arctic front moves through, it's pretty self-explanatory, guys. There's going to be frontogenesis. This is not a complicated factor here. .700, and take a look. There's going to be frontogenesis. You can see that work through here, and this is why I'm looking at down East Maine potential for snowstorm, and then I'm also looking at ocean-enhanced stuff to go on here. But the thing is, so low the column here that 850 is going to play a notable part too. 850s are going to play a huge part here, the lift we have in the lower levels because of how cold the column is. Take a look at our temperatures here. Look at our 850s, guys. These are ridiculous. Even out ahead of the system, we have potent cold air. So that was kind of the difference between the last frontal system, is we had cold air out in front, but not necessarily this cold. This is legit. We have very potent cold air. As you know, the wind chills were brutal today. If you walked outside, it did not feel comfortable. And then you'll notice the clash of temperatures. Cold air advection here coming in from the backside, and then along this area, infancy stages of cyclogenesis. Now, I think it's still going to take a second for this thing to get going, so it's not automatically going to turn into a 970 right away, but it will. It will rather soon. You see the transfer of energy happen there offshore, and the key is to watch is how early does that take place as well. That will be a huge factor, is when does the low here, how soon does this upper level low pop and allow this to form off the coast here. And as a result, peep the changes that we've been doing here. Yes, Long Island's in play to see snow tomorrow night. Absolutely. If we can load up here, because I'm not going to go to tidbits. As you guys know, it crashes the MacBook every single time. Changes. Hey, don't squeak right now, okay? We're a little busy over here, Tatum, okay? Watch the squeaking. So, you see what we've been doing? It's flattened out, nothing to do jet streak. We're just gonna potentially produce snow more in these places. Now what we do is we've shifted everything back. We've shifted everything back, slowed it down, allowed a sooner transfer to take place, and now we have a jet streak over southern New England, and a notable one too, over 100 knots. Now, not quite as strong. Hey, we are busy here. Don't make me take the toy away from you. Come on now. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. So we have this notable jet streak here. And now we set up this area for snowfall across these places. Now, the tricky thing with New York City here is you're just going to have to deal with the squeaking, apparently. He's not a good listener yet, just 1 year old, unfortunately. But in the event of the transfer, a lot of these places, it's not really a shaft, it's just you're not in line. So it will feel like a shaft, but you're really just not in line. Now, some of these more interior places, they'll get the squall line to get there, and it'll kind of fade, and what's ever left will get to these places. And then really New York City and these places here are really now trying to figure out their way into the transfer at this point. Your best bet for these places is an earlier transfer, so you can get a precip shield to build back here. Now, I would anticipate with this jet streak that you will get some light snow in New York City. We tend to see the upper level divergence. There tends to be, it'll be rather light, but you will get that precip shield to get back into some of these places. It will, and there will be some light snow to build back into southern New England as well a little bit more. But what you will see here, and I always pick the new one to squeak. Oh boy, the life of a puppy. If you know, you know. But so you will probably get some, if I had to guess, in New York City, Western Long Island, Nassau County, into some of those Eastern Jersey, Northeast Jersey places as well. There'll probably be some, there'll probably be some light snow, but the focus is going to be further east into Long Island. Yes, into coastal Connecticut to watch as well, but especially Eastern Connecticut. Probably into central Connecticut as well, just probably not as much as Eastern Connecticut. And then we slide up through these places here. This is probably going to be the focus of this system. Take a look. Just follow the jet streak really simply. It's probably going to be into these places here. This is going to be the focus of this system. And so it's southern New England, southeastern New England. That is kind of the focus here with this system for the most notable snowfall accumulations. And this will also extend. It won't go like this, maybe. I don't want to say officially, but I don't think so. It'll probably look more like this, just to the orientation of the coastline here. So these places will get in line for probably some moderate to heavy snow as well along the main coastline here. And so that will play a part here. Some of just the shape of the geography here. Won't necessarily shaft some places in New Hampshire, but just not as much probably as here or just here south, if I had to guess. And this is, yes, a setup where I believe Boston is very well placed with the setup here. And again, we talked about why. We'll slide over an image. This is your setup, and we tend to look, especially in the mid-levels, but you can do 850 as well. And this is an intensifying. Notice what the trend here is on guidance to represent. See, we're backing everything up here. And so we're going to be looking at these areas here to get into probably some pretty notable, just along and just to the north. And you can really, I don't want to pull up tidbits is the problem. I think I can go into the YouTube posts here. So we'll do that. Okay, we're chilling there. I know you don't mind Vermonti, and I know you don't mind Michael, because you're dog people, but I'm sure there's a couple of people that are like, this guy turned the frickin' squeaking off. But here, we're zoomed in a little much, but and we'll look at some of those soundings as well. Look, like I posted a lot of them. Again, I mentioned keep an eye on this time frame, 4th to 6th. But here's your 700 millibar profile, and it's even more. It looks even better now at this point, in my opinion. And you can see this is 700 millibars, and it's a little different, and it's a little bit more amplified, and it's a little, it's broken up a little bit more to show these places here getting into it, but. The general idea is not all that different. 700 millibar, you look right along here. Now that might be a little too far, but you tend to look right along here. You look along the area and just to the northwest. And this is why I'm saying Northeast Connecticut, Southeastern Worcester, Southern Worcester County, Middlesex, Norfolk, Suffolk County as well. All these places here, down into Providence, Northern Rhode Island, all of these places here, North Shore, Cape Ann, all of these places here, South Shore, all in line here potentially for a narrow band of notable accumulating snow here. And it could be several hours, if not more here. And while the surrounding areas are still going to get some light snow in this. So back into here too, I think we could be talking some 1 to 3 inch totals into here. I really think we're going to have a pretty widespread area of 2 to 5 inches into a lot of these places here. Down into Long Island, potentially, we'll see. I might go a little more conservative with Long Island, but it looks over some of those soundings like really, really promising for that, for central and eastern Long Island, potentially into the Connecticut coast, and then it may look something like this. I may do a cutoff like that. We'll see how far southwest I'm willing to go. We'll see how far southwest I'm willing to go, and then within that, you guys may not be ready to hear this yet, but I'm going to go ahead and with that and say there could be a stripe of yes, 5 to 8 plus inches. There could be a stripe of 5 to 8 plus inches, and I want to see a little bit more first before I go diving in. But you really just start doing the math here in the amount of hours of heavy snow that you're going to do in it's the snowfall rates you're going to do in such a short time, guys. And that's why I'm going to call it a mini snowstorm here, is you're seeing a lot of coating to 1 to 3s. And I just don't see it as that kind of event. Some people can disagree. They can say what they want. But I really see this. There are some similarities here to the last setup here. There are some notable similarities. The jet streak, not quite as strong as the last setup. And that's something to note. But in terms of the placement and the duration of the 700 millibar FGen and 850 millibar FGen, the amount of time we're going to be doing, the duration of this system, and this is the next part now that plays a part into this. So I'm going to kind of zoom out here. One, I was like, do I say we got to go with our gut here? That's how we got to go. That is how we go. I know some of you have New Year's. You're going to be driving late tomorrow. You really need to keep an eye on the forecast. And really keep an eye on radar. If you can just stay the night at your friend's house or your family's house, or if you can get out earlier, preferably, if you really care about the ball drop and that stuff, you got to keep an eye on the forecast tomorrow night. I forget the exact specific timing. I've been asked that by many people around me, but you really need to keep an eye on the forecast. All Boston weather people telling us South Coast going to get a dusting. It's going to be more than that. It's going to be more than that. I'm almost certain about that. If I'm wrong, then we'll address after. But I don't see it that way. And we'll show you some of these soundings here. And the OZ guidance came in with some of the same stuff. I really want to show me the image. I want to click onto the image here. Will it let me do that? What is my problem here? Why can I click onto this? Do we have to go to the X? We will if we have to. Oh yeah, hot take. This could be Boston's biggest snow event of the season. And in theory, it's also potential you surpass your seasonal total. Looking at Logan. Logan's not the same as reality for many people, though. So there's HRRR showing that as well, but I trust the NAM 3K a little bit more with an extended range than the HRRR, but that doesn't mean I trust it more or at all necessarily. But you can take a look here. Excuse me. And you'll notice, look at pause it. Take a look here, right in that zone we're talking about. 20, you're going to be mid-upper 20s at the surface, a lot of places just off the coast. The coast, you're going to be in the 30s, but this is one of those setups where the upper level cold air, and you're going to be more saturated than the December 13th. You're going to be more saturated than that one in this event. We had a little bit more of a dew point depression, and I think that played a factor. And it was still okay ratios, but it was not to the extent that I had thought with that setup initially. This is much better. And take a look where your lift is here. You have -1 omega right here, perfectly placed, almost more than that. You're -1.5. Notable lift, but guys, look where your dendritic growth zone is here. We're looking at almost like a lake effect sounding. Like this is your -20, go to your -10 in the core. Between that, -18 to -12, you'll notice that's exactly where you want your lift to be. And when you're cold, this cold, the top of your dendritic growth zone, for example, usually is around 500 millibars. Usually is around 500 millibars. It's usually around 500 to 600 millibars. You got to go to about 650, maybe even lower for the start of this thing. And then to the bottom of it, it's dang near going to be 850 millibars here, if not below that. So that's how low our dendritic growth zone is going to be in this setup here, because the cold air we have out in place and then along the front as well, your lift is going to be rather prolific in these areas. And you notice this is not just along the coast. This applies to as well. Again, that's not even the peak time frame. That's the beginning of the system. And that's going to produce that right there, really capable of producing half-inch plus per hour rates. Doesn't look like much, but that is enough lift. That is enough lift consistently throughout the dendritic growth zone, and you're well cold. And then you just start turning it into a math game. How many hours are we going to do this? Go to other place as well, and take a look at that, guys. So that is in between Worcester and Boston right there in Middlesex County. I think, yeah. Look at this sounding. Look at the lift in the dendritic growth zone here at the top especially. This is your 700 millibar front, your mid-level frontogenesis here. This is notable. This is notable at this point. You can see your dendritic growth zone is now even lower in the atmosphere. It's about from 700 millibars down to about below 850. And the core of it is around 725-ish. To about 850. Look at the lift present. -2 omega potentially in the top of the dendritic growth zone. Omega, the lift in your snowflake production zone. Reminder, in these soundings here, your dendritic growth zone is where your snowflakes are made. So this is where you want to look for you want your snowflakes to be made well in this area. Efficient snowflake growth, efficient snowflake production is where you want to look. This is where ratios are defined. This is where snowfall rates are defined. The surface matters. It matters a good amount, but this is the most important part when you're looking for snow. And this is where the story gets told here. And the upper level cold air only gets more and more notable as the front approaches. This is inland. You can see this, guys, too. This is not along the coast. This is off the coast. And you can see the soundings here. 700, because you always look along into the northwest of that 700 millibar F-gen. This is not just coast. Take a look there. Even more interior. On a different hour as well. And it's exactly what you want to see. That's over -1 omega, perfectly placed in the dendritic growth zone, on the fringes of it as well. Very solid sounding there for snow, as you can see. Very solid. This is real, and that's cold. It's cold. You're 27 at the surface, but I might argue you might have higher ratios than you had this. Remember I said it would be about 12 to 18 to 1, those peak ratios we would get in this storm here. The last one, it could be even higher for some of these places. And that's where we were. It was, along the coast, it was closer, a little bit closer to 10 to 1, maybe just above. But it was, for the most part, I think it was, let's see. For me, it was closer to about 0.35 inches of liquid, and I ended up with over 5 inches of snow. So I think that was 12 to 15 to 1-ish. I really should have done the math on that again, but yeah, we're gonna look at the euro in a second here. But I just want people to grasp, why am I saying what I'm saying here? What about this setup suggests that? Another interior sounding. Go further southeast. Yeah, I mean, what is that? 28 at the surface. Well, look how present your cold air is. And look how well saturated, guys. Here's another indicator. Your saturation for a lot of this setup is not just to the edge of the dendritic growth zone. Your upper level saturation is very well done, and your dynamic cooling will be notable as well in this setup. So you might be even colder aloft in those, those heaviest rate points as well. So we'll go to the next one. And this was the trend here you can see as well. AIFS picking up on that as well. We'll slide another one, and here's some more along the coast as well. I mean, that along the South Shore, not perfect, but all around the area, the dendritic growth zone. And also thunder snow will be possible with this as well, if not likely. I would say thunder snow with this setup. And that right there, I mean, just gorgeous. Right on the other side, dare I say some mixing for the islands is possible? It's possible. I wouldn't rule it out for some of the islands here, just how far you come back here at the surface. But this right here, that's a perfect, that's a fantastic snow sounding. You're 32 at the surface, but you're so cold aloft here. Even down to the coast, we're going to be talking probably 1 to 3 inch hour rates for a time. The very coast. Take a look here, Cape Ann, guys. I mean, over -2 omega, over -3 omega, or is that? I can't see over the GIF sign. -2, -3 omega, and yes, notable. But look at that change in direction here. That you have 300 surface cape here, guys. 300 surface cape. There's serious thunder snow potential here. And again, there was a lot of similar soundings as well on the OZ, but it's just giving some perspective. Now, if this were drastically changing run to run, I'd be concerned. But even here, down into coastal Maine, some of these places as well, this is a very solid. This will do 1/2 inch to inch per hour rates right here. Very cold aloft. And that's the key here. And so you can take a look at some of those soundings as well if you want. You can go to tidbits, and the HRRR has them as well, as you can see. Very notable. You can go all around here. And that might have been 18Z, but so that was a bit ago. But the general idea remains the same. Southern New England is going to be in line here. Now, give me a second. Now, some of these places, I just had to clear my throat, and it was not going to be pleasant for you to hear. So some stuff into central Jersey is possible, but I think it's going to be more a coating to 1 inch or 2 down there. This is really not the spot. I think New York City might be in a better spot than. We'll see how far the snow shield can extend, but it's really because you have this along the Arctic front here, and then you'll have a transfer of energy. Let's take a look at 500. You see that? Your 500 millibar vort, your upper level low wants to form along here, not here. So it's really just about proximity to that. You see that? This is where your upper level low wants to form along this area here. And then the surface low pops to the southeast of that. It looks warmer for January now. You guys got to get away from the models. You seriously got to get away from that. I'm telling you, there's really not much about this that looks warm for the Northeast in January. There's like almost nothing that looks warm. And I'm not trying to dismantle you at all. I'm just saying that. There's not much about this. It would maybe on a storm basis, could one ride a little bit inland? Sure, I guess in theory. But there's not much about this upcoming pattern that looks warm for the Northeast here. Um, so I'm not sure who's saying that or whatever, but I can tell you that it would take a lot to try to get an above average warm pattern here for the next few weeks. And I don't see that at all. And we're going to discuss it. But let's see here. Oh, yeah. That euro looks solid. Yeah, I'm not sure who was saying. I'm not sure I've seen many people say this is a warmer pattern for the Northeast. And you can look at all those. The long range looks fantastic. If way in the long range, if you're looking at that guidance, just many don't know quite how to read those 500 millibar maps. Yeah, look at 700 here. God, gorgeous. Your weather app. Don't listen to your weather app at all. Your weather app is the worst thing you can listen to for advice. Way far. Do not buy into that ever. It's not worth it. Not worth it at all. There's your P-type map too. You can start to see it look a little bit more. And this is the problem. People will look at this and go, "Well, it's honestly." It's a little bit faster with the progression, to be honest. It's really just more, the evolution is just more north on this specific run. I saw that with a lot of the OZ guidance. So I like kind of the progression of the slowerness of the 18Z, but this is all, that's also some model noise at that point. Let's take a look at the AIFS. And this played late to the game too. This played late to the game too. There's kind of give you an idea that it's these models are playing from behind with this setup here. But you can see this turns into a pretty notable. This turns into a notable snowstorm here. Turns into quite a beast up there. And then we keep an eye on this time frame here. Right in here. I've said it. Keep an eye on this time frame. Very close. Very, very, very close. Closer than you would think. And we're continuing to trend in the right direction every single run. Now, I wish it would be a couple days earlier, but work with what you got here. The linkage between these two, something to keep an eye on in this time frame. If you do, you go boom, and all of a sudden you get snowstorm. You get a mid-Atlantic northeast snowstorm if you do, but and this is around that period. We'll go into here too. We'll keep an eye on that time frame as well, and then after that. This is where people think this is a bad pattern because they're looking 294 hours out and thinking it. This is not a bad pattern. This is much better than you would think. At what point at all this winter have we had a consistent easterly ridge here? And even then, it would be transient. So I'm not really too worried about any of that. In fact, remember where we were with the last snowstorm? About 5 to 6 days out. Even the AIFS, the ensembles had it corrected. So you look at that stuff, and there's nothing really to support that in the longer range. In fact, I think it's, I like it. I want to have ridging here in the Atlantic. I want it. Need it. That's how I want to produce a snowstorm. I don't want things just sliding out. Let's thread the needle a little bit. That gives us a better chance here than just letting this thing slide out here and not be able to produce. But going back to the subject matter at hand, let's see if we can get. No, we can't. So then I have to go to tidbits, and I don't want to do that. Right there. See guidance? Look at the difference. It's minor, but you're slowing the progression down, and you're forcing an earlier transfer. You're forcing a low to pop here sooner. And that's how you get this. That's how we've gotten the system compared to what guidance was showing several days ago. And this is the pattern. This is your classic northwest trim pattern right here. You got pieces flying around your PV lobe here. And it's a poorly sampled area. This is not something for models to predict well. Pieces just flying in. Now here's the thing, I think you're still a little bit limited in terms of like any major blockbuster with this system here, just due to such a separation between the link of the streams, but there's potential here to get a snowstorm. One of those historic blockbusters, not quite. Those also don't frequent the winter as much as we can try to forecast. But this right here, this is the northwest trim pattern. This is pretty close here. Just not close enough. But we have a pretty solid pattern here. Atlantic blocking, Greenland blocking, cold air, northern flow, subtropical flow. In theory, you continue to repeat this, at some point, you're going to get one of these to hit for a major storm. Question is, can we time it up? And in theory, the East Asia disruption, the East Asia teleconnection we look at in Japan suggests we can do it. It certainly seems like there's some periods to watch. Especially from like the 6th to the 12th. Right and around this time frame to this time frame here. 13th maybe-ish, whatever. Somewhere around that time frame. And that could be after too. We noticed there was more to it. And then the problem is, though, people just stare at these in the long range and think this is everything. And it doesn't work like that. And honestly, the reason you don't have a system here in this time frame because models are really holding on to everything up here, I think a bit too much. And so you don't have much of a North Stream connection. You get a North Stream connection here. This is your southern stream, believe it or not. That's why it looks warmer, because this is connection from here, Pacific. You get North Stream here, I'll bet you get big snowstorm potential. It would be incredible if we can connect pieces still about $100 away. Not far off, just feels like one of those many near misses from last winter. Well, as you guys know, this winter has not been the same as the previous one. this winter has we've kind of converted a lot of these setups so far. Now it doesn't mean we've missed some setups too for higher potential, but we've also maximized what we've gotten pretty well. But the problem is people get caught in looking at this stuff and thinking it's gospel, and it's not. It's not whatsoever. And that's really the problem with forecasting. That's really why I'm done looking at the timeline or following much either. It pops up right away, so I don't really get a choice. So I'll have to see a few stuff every time, but really the focus is going to be, just my lists at this point now, and looking at some replies. I'm not always responding, but I'll still try to like some of you guys' replies and stuff and comment a little bit. But I gotta do what's best for me at the same time. And not all of you can understand it maybe, but it's because you're not me. So, not better than any of you, just different. But going back to New Year's, you would look at this, well, that's not really a lot of QPF. How the heck are you going to get some of those totals you mentioned? Because your QPF does not account for what you're actually doing. And it also may not be perfect either. It may not be perfectly accurate here. So you're really going to have some high ratios with this setup, and there's going to be some compaction after, because it is not a lot of QPF, but it's enough. And I think that also this will smooth it out a little bit. So in terms of mesoscale features, it won't be 100% perfect. This you can get this. I think this is a little closer in terms of QPF here, and even then, we'll see how much it could be underdoing a little bit. You see a 1/10 to 3/10 of an inch of QPF across a lot of these areas, and I think that adds up a little bit more. And you can see that it seems like it's starting to pick up a little closer to where my head's at. And some of these elevated areas too will do pretty well. But the real focus, I think, is going to be into here. And here. That's where I'm looking at. Finally, the puppy is maximize his play potential. And he's out for the night. And RGM kind of highlighting too. I think the RGM is pretty close. Is pretty close in terms of the red idea as well. Maybe not on exact QPF, but even then, it's not picking up. The thing about these Kuchera maps, guys, is they don't account for lift in the dendritic growth zone. That's why those Kuchera maps were overdoing it a little bit on the last one, because they just account for the temperatures in the column, and when they're that low at the surface, yeah, in the beginning, those first couple hours of snow accumulation, it's going to do pretty accurately, but after that, it's not going to. But it's between the compaction, not enough lift. It's be able to continue to accumulate, you really got to be able to get some good dendrites after those first few hours of accumulation, especially if you're not going to clear a snowboard or your grassy area, wherever you're measuring at. I wonder what the high res is looking like. Right there. But you can see that general idea, and it's picking up on it, kind of. But really, this is going to extend a little bit further as well. So this stripe, it has it, you guys can see, but this is going to be, it's just not picking up quite as much further into these areas. But if you look at 700 millibar FGen, you look at 850, you'll notice it pops. And that's just the case, guys. You have to look at what's actually going to happen with the end result with some of this stuff, not what these models show here. That was a mistake a lot of people made last time, is they saw all the snow and it like smoothed it out, the snow maps. But remember what we talked about. What happened was you had the massive band. Yes, it worked through. And so you happened to get the most notable totals into here and into here, back into these places. And the reason these places had the highest totals somewhere into here is because they did not have as much subsidence, and they were staying consistent on where the 700 millibar banding. Where was the most consistent banding with this storm? In New England, it was across here, these places. I was sitting in it. I was very close, right into here. This is where the most consistent banding was. Because max demised, even though it was not heavier totals in these places, it was because the band was so impressive in the beginning, and you had so much good lift, and it weakened a little bit till it got to these points. This was a subsidence zone, though. You had waves of banding going in to meet where the max lift was across these areas. Right into here, these areas here. And so it was a bunch of subsidence, but I told you guys, 850 millibar banding, what did we have? And it's exactly what happened. You had the enhancement off the ocean, just as we discussed as well, and you had the 850 millibar banding that I knew was going to come in clutch. And when I knew it, I told you guys, I said, people are going to look at it radar and be like, what the heck is happening? I was trying to explain it the night before. You're going to be just fine. What did New York City end up with? 4 to 6 inches, 3 to 6 inches, all in around the area. Just to the southwest, we said it was going to be a tight gradient, and it was more like 1 to 3 coating to an inch further southwest. Because you got to pinpoint what are these models actually hinting towards. They're great tools if you know how to use them properly. Great tools. But you have to use them properly. Now, I'm not a perfect expert though, so I'm not always going to be exactly right, because if I was, then I'd be making probably millions of dollars a year. If I was right every single time perfectly, I'd be the only meteorologist or weatherman in history to be able to do it. I'm not a meteorologist degree. I'm not degreed at all. I'd be like the only weatherman ever to be able to do that. And that's kind of the beauty of it. That it's not going to be perfect every time, but I can at least try to highlight the scenarios to the point where I didn't miss something. That's my goal in every system. I can get something a little bit wrong. I can't miss something. I have to be able to make sure I did not miss something. Even if I did not explicitly forecast it, I have to say we brought it up, so you guys were not unprepared for the possibility. And that was, I think, what a lot of people were looking at. Not many were prepared for the possibility of this subsidence zone across a lot of these areas with the last system. But remember when we were looking at 700 millibar Vort, everything suggests that there was going to be waves of banding in between. And it wasn't just going to be flat out heavy snow after the initial band. And sure enough, that's what it looked like. And had there been a little bit more lift into these areas, that was probably the only part that I really didn't love about my forecast, is just not quite enough lift into some of these areas. Kind of faded initially, and there weren't as much 8 to 12 totals up here. More reserved a little bit further south. I thought the Berkshires would get into some of those bigger totals too. That's the goal. The goal is to try to get the end result. My job is to try to tell you what's going to happen. And we start playing the math game here, guys. It doesn't even show it that well. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, what are we talking? 5 to 8 hours of snow, maybe a little bit after too. Keep an eye. This is the second part of still more to come through, so might be snow squalls on the backside here. Keep that in mind for some of these interior places. But if we're looking at 5 to 8 hours of snow, let's just say, we'll say 5 to 8 hours. It could be a little bit more, maybe it's a little bit less, but let's say that's the case. And we were looking at some of those ratios we're going to do. At a minimum, a lot of those ratios were suggesting at least 1/3 of an inch an hour at a minimum. At least 1/3 of an inch per hour. But really a lot of those were 1/2 inch plus per hour soundings. So you just simply do the math. If you get 6 hours of 1/2 inch per hour soundings, just on average, what are you going to get? You're going to get about 3 inches of snow. That's your math game. That's it. You just got to do it by how many hours of snow, hours of that rate you're going to do, and try to do that math and try to pinpoint. That's why the DGZ is so important when you're forecasting snow. You got to pinpoint what's going to happen. And it's tricky. It's really tricky to predict the exact ratios of snow for those areas for so many hours. Go to an AM3K. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's about 5 to 6 hours, and then it has some more after. So we're scrolling through into the interior, some squalls scrolling through, and then starting to get going on the southeast. Hold on to. And who knows if this P-type map is even accurately depicting that. But you look at this and you'll go, doesn't look like that much. But then you go under the hood, and you can see there's a lot more going on. A lot more. I wonder if the 12K will smooth it out a little bit better. But it doesn't have 1 hour. So now, I was just assuming we're going to be 1/2 inch per hour for let's say, all those 6 hours. Let's say you get some 1 to 3 inch per hour rates, which is certainly possible. There's going to be some periods of heavy snow with this, I think. And figuring out exactly where is the key. Now, I'm no math expert, but let's say if you get 2 hours of 2 inch per hour rates, that's going to be 4 inches. And now you got 4 more, let's say, of hours of snow. If you just do 0.3, let's say 1/4 inch per hour for 4 more hours, which it could be even more within some of those, but let's say you average it out between lighter and heavier bands, it's going to end up, let's see, 0.3 times 4, 1.2 plus the 4, it's over 5 inches of snow. So you guys starting to see now why I'm forecasting what I think could happen here. Why I think there could be a stripe of 5 to 8 plus inches of snow. Why I think that it's going to be a widespread 2 to 5 for a good portion of southern and southeastern New England into Long Island. I might go with a 1 to 3 in Long Island. We'll see. Especially if nobody else is going to be willing to do what I'm going to do. There's no reason for me to go up and above that. There's not a lot of benefit to me as a forecaster, other than being able to maybe get lucky and exactly predict that. But my goal is just to let you know what I'm forecasting, and keep in mind that not everybody in every single spot is going to measure everything. But that right there is enough to look at, especially on the back. I think there could be some motion enhancement here, some of these places. We'll see how well saturated you can still be at that time. Let's see. I mean, that looks that's pretty solid. So 925s is where it runs a little iffy though. That's a little iffy, but maybe along the coast. Very spotty. 850 is good. 700, 925s, not as much. This is right where the action's happening though. It's the infancy stages of cyclogenesis here. You can see the dry air coming in here, right within the low pressure itself too, right on the other side. Deformation band from Maine. So Maine's like a different aspect of this event almost. I mean, I don't really get into far down East Maine, but some of these places into here, this could end up being more like a 6 to 12 event for some of these places into down East Maine. And you can kind of see it pick up on that. It could be more. I guess it could be more in theory, but NAM might be over amplifying a little bit there at that point. Once the NAM starts going, it doesn't stop. It tends to. So some of those infancy stages, it might be okay, but you can kind of run with it a little too much sometimes. RGM, but RGM showing it too though. So I would bet on this area here. There might be a small area of 6 to 12 plus there, maybe more. Euro probably has it as well, and it does. And then keep an eye on, like we said, some enhancement down here. But it tends to get pretty sharp, that dry air on the backside, so I wouldn't expect it to linger too much. The further west you go and south. But again, you go under the hood and it becomes a bit clearer. NFL fan, how we doing? NFL weather fan. Because that right there is a 500 millibar low that suggests all these places right here could be dumping snow. And you can see we're in the infancy stages of that happening. Right there. In theory, this precip shield could extend back into here as well. So I'd expect that. And then right in here, you can see almost mini snake tongue. Mini snake tongue right in here. This is where 500 millibar suggests. And I should have leaned into it even more last storm, guys. I really should have. This is what's being suggested here. Right in here. Moderate to heavy snow bands moving through. And it just keeps getting. I might have to extend it into some of these places in the Maine, I think. Right into here. It may have been a little too off-puttish. Right into here. That is a 500 is just juicy. And then 700 gets there. You see what you got going on there? There's your period right there. Boom, in and around here. That's where you got to be looking. And then again, there's still more to come through here, so I'd be curious to see how well saturated we can remain at that point. Under the hood here, it's just fascinating to look at. What do we got here? Yep, there's your a little over 100 knot jet streak right there. Right in there. But I wanted to get moisture. Should first go back to 700 and then go to moisture. That's interesting. Very fascinating. Well, 500 we don't care about. 700 we don't necessarily. Could our dendrogrowth zone could even be below that at that point. I mean, right into this point, I wouldn't be. You get into this banding here. And this swings through as well. I mean, you're a couple frames away from doing a little bit more exciting. So, I mentioned what I mentioned, but dare I say in theory there's a higher ceiling, but it's a really intriguing mesoscale forecast here, and you really gotta be digging in to get the puzzle pieces with this one. Right there. Man. Yeah, Euro shows that right there too. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Euro's gonna do 7 to 9 hours of this. Start talking about a little bit more interesting with the ceiling then. And you know what the tricky thing about this is? So this is our storm here, or our system, whatever you want to call it. Look where it still is. We're looking at it for tomorrow night, and this thing is still in. It's still in like central Canada. Still moving. It's heading in. Well, now at this point, but it's probably in southern Canada. But it's it's still not even at the border yet at OZ, 0Z right there. And the amplification you get. Model's really messed up. And you know what happened? again, models with the confluence here of this system, the back edge, just holding on to it for too long. Not separating these two enough coming through. Holding on to this for too long. And you can see the back edge of that system comes through. And I wonder if models are going to hold on to that for too long as well. And I wonder if models are going to continue to hold on to this for too long as well. The pieces are there. The pieces are there for late this weekend. They're absolutely there for a snowstorm. Question is, do we get the streams? It's already close. Just as we stand now. Doesn't look like it that much. But it's there. It's very close to there. And I wonder if we're not getting the proper stream separation between these two. Now, this ridge is so strong, it's not really going to give enough time for this to sit in. So that's something I would be watching, is how much can our North Stream piece kind of sit in here. Because the Southern Stream is strong. Look at this. It's active. This thing, guys, this thing wants to be taken. It's like a little puppy at the shelter begging for you to take it. It wants to go home. There's a lot to work with in the Southern Stream. Yeah. It's close. It's just not there. But that was 0Z last time. So this is a 24 hours. You can clearly see the change from the P-type map. We showed it 500 millibar, much clearer, but this is what we've been doing. You see the trend? Quiet here until Sunday night. Into Monday, good chance of snow, but you'll need to look into it. Hate to break it to you, I won't be looking into it because we're busy tracking here. But now Tatum's laying farts again. Fantastic. Smells wonderful. Christmas, little Christmas, non-Christmas, whatever you want to call it, smell. Lighting up the room. But this you can clearly see guidance playing catch up. This is what am I calling it, guys? This is the northwest trend pattern right here. This is it. So my bet is we get at least, you can see the linkage a little bit. My guess is we're probably in line potentially to at least see potential for something this weekend. In terms of maybe it's just very light snow, maybe it's just flurries, whatever. But at a minimum, and the question is now at this point, do we link it up? But we're close, but a lot of work to be done at the same time. It's like right, if you're trying to, if you're a good team, right, you're but you're not in the playoffs yet, but you think you can make a good run. It's like, yeah, we're doing well, things, but we got a long ways to go still in order to do it. My gut says it's going to be a little difficult to get this, but I'm just going to be a little conservative here, just based on past history. There has not been a lot to suggest that we get significant linkage of the streams here. Now, more than what we have, maybe we get something a little bit. Maybe that's where my gut leans a little bit. Because the confluence piece here, really holding on in that combo of the ridge makes things a little bit difficult. See how flat we are in the Atlantic as well here? That makes things a little hard to do at that point. You need to be pulling, these two need to be pulling in at this point. Now, you compare that where you were yesterday, it's not even close to the same. You do what you did from 24 hours ago, even just over the next 48 hours, you'll put yourself in a decent spot to get some snow out of this. But my gut says don't explicitly forecast that to do the northwest trend. So, and without, I haven't really deep dived into it either, guys. I'm really just, I have to rely on guidance a little bit more than I want to. Because a lot of my attention has now turned to this, and I don't have the time to be able to do all this, go in depth. I'm really a system by system is what I am. So when you ask me, to give you an accurate forecast of something when there's a system going on, it's really difficult for me. Because I'm putting so much time and energy and effort into this. I don't think a lot of you guys realize this, but throughout the day, not only to go along with my actual life, not just my passion, my major, but it's still a side passion here of meteorology and weather. I'm actively looking throughout the day at past research, past papers. They're trying to link up stuff to specifically what's happening now, and trying my best, to learn through that process. I didn't go to meteorology school. I didn't get a degree in atmospheric sciences. Took some classes, but I never decided to get a degree. Just didn't think it was necessary, and I didn't think, for me personally, I think we're pretty good forecasting, but I take a lot of time in what I'm doing, and I'm self-taught, so it gives me some disadvantages, but I think it gives me some advantages, as well. But to see things a little bit differently. But it's tricky when you are self-taught. I've had to learn all of this myself. Find the right sources, find the right people online, find the right, just find the right everything in order to learn this stuff. It takes a lot of time and effort, to learn something from scratch. And we're past the scratch point, but it's been years and years of me just trying to do that. So let's take a look at the ensemble. Where do you usually find or look for your research? I love AMS verified research. So now with AI and technology, guys, you can just type. I really use that to help find the stuff quicker, but I still have to to deep dive it. So you can really just go into Google, you can go into ChatGPT or whatever, and you can just and you can find it. You can look up what kind of setup we have. You can even put pictures in there probably, and just ask it, hey, what kind of setup is this? And now it may not be accurate though, so that's one thing. The AI still has some work to go, so be careful with doing that. But really just try to find, if as long hopefully you're knowledgeable enough on the setup, say Arctic front, and then find past Arctic front setups, find the research papers to link it, and then you can go in and you can deep dive yourself. But AMS tends to be the most verified sources for that information. There's actually some good stuff on NWS and NOAA websites that you can find too. But in terms of stuff, I would just go look at, I'm sure there's plenty of past streams that I've done. You don't have to just go to mine, but NSFWWX, if you go to his, go Go to past snowstorms. Go to, if you know the past snowstorm dates, which I'm sure so many of you know those. You'll know those off the top of your head, but uh, go to those past snowstorm dates and then go to those streams and then try to learn it through there as well. That's something I use to my advantage as well. Um, go to past forecast discussions from the trusted, knowledgeable people that know what they're talking about, and it gives you perspective on different setups. What were the pieces there, and you can start linking it and connecting it to what you think might play out then. And then you have to learn through your mistakes. But at the same time, here's one pet peeve I have with a lot of the younger generation I'm seeing on X is doing, and it's kind of turned me off, is the lack of mentioning of the confidence of the forecast. There's a lot of, when like those snowfall maps and those messages, like people doing current observations, there's a confidence about what they're saying that they just don't have yet in reality in terms of accuracy. And I don't mean to I don't mean that harsh or to diminish it at all. But there's a process and a development that goes into the learning bumps and curves. And so it's good to have some confidence in what you're doing. You shouldn't take that away from your forecasting ability. But in terms of the accuracy of the forecast itself, especially if you're younger, you need to keep that in mind in how you present your information to everybody else. Because I'm seeing a lot of maps, and what I was seeing before that kind of turned me off was, and it wasn't just younger people, it was plenty of actual meteorologists and weathermen and women as well. What I was seeing is people putting maps out several days in advance and them not being close to accurate, and then like saying like, this is my first call. Well, what's the point of your first call if you have zero confidence in that and you're just relying on models? Yeah, you're welcome, Bermani. There's no point in that, guys. There's no point. If you don't have any confidence in what you're putting out, then why the heck are you putting something out in the first place? That's an actual map. Like, you have to have some weight on that, like, to care about that. Like, oh, this is the first map, it's going to change a lot. Then what's the point of the map? It's a snowfall forecast for that date. It is not, what else is it? You're forecasting snow for that date. If it's not accurate, then why are you putting it out? Like, you should have some confidence that that's going to be accurate. And then especially what I noticed then is those next two maps that they put out, a lot of people, are also not accurate. But there's increased confidence, but they're still not accurate towards the end result. And part of that is learning curves and understanding what's going on. But it's just stuff you just gotta keep that in mind. And it's not just the learning curves for people to improve. They're more established for younger people. That is necessary. But for already well grown up adult, meteorologists and weather women and men, like that shouldn't, like, what was the point of all those years of meteorology to just like put out a map 3 days out for it to not even be close? Like, Harvey Leonard was an example of somebody who, if you're living in Massachusetts, he had to. This is why I love a lot of older meteorologists, is because they had to learn without models. They did not have models to rely on. They had to learn the atmosphere themselves for what's going to happen. You had to pinpoint days in advance with no weather models what was going to happen. Harvey Leonard was a fantastic meteorologist. He still is, but just isn't on the air anymore. But it's a fantastic example. I'm sure you guys can remember a bunch of other ones. It doesn't mean all older meteorologists are good, but there's a connection there that you have to learn the atmosphere, and you can't just rely on models. And now a lot of people just look at those maps and they say, oh, the models were wrong. They changed. Well, of course they're going to change. What are we talking about? Of course they're going to change. It's your job, it's my job, it's our job to be able to pinpoint that days in advance and let people know that what the actual forecast is going to be. That's our job. Not to say this is what models show, this is the forecast. Oh, it's going to it changed. What was going to happen was set in stone millions of years in advance, I guess you could say. Technically. Just it was going to happen. It didn't change. What was going to happen was always going to happen. How we perceived what was going to happen changed. That's the difference. And so the real skill, as our man Willie C says, is forecasting days in advance with clear thoughts. And so even though I don't put out snow maps like 4 days in advance, actually sometimes I put out threat maps that far out. Sometimes if I'm really confident, but usually I put out a threat map like 2 to 3 days out. And then I'll put out my snow map either the morning of or the night before. My final one. So it's usually a 1 to 2 map basis for me because I don't need to change 9 million times. Now, there's others that can change a little bit fine tune, but if it's really not that major changes, then and it's consistent, then that's good job forecasting. Like Willie C, for example, will put out like a lot of times like 4 or 5 different maps, but usually it's no changes. I like the map. And even if he's wrong to some extent, he had a forecast. He had an idea of the setup days in advance. That's the skill in forecasting. Who are some of your favorite meteorologists on X? What do you think of NY and JPA weather? He has had some responses to me that have been not majorly, but a little passive aggressive a little bit before. So I don't really engage with him personally, to be honest, even though I think he has some pretty good knowledge. I don't dislike him, or he just has had some responses to me that have been like a little testy on just weather thoughts and what I've had to say. So I personally, I don't really interact with him all that much. I know Bobby from EPA is pretty good. John Hickey is pretty good. Willie C, NSF, WWX, Bernie for learning the meteorology, really really good. Even though some of the snow maps may not always be the most accurate with him, I think he's very helpful for learning the atmosphere. Um, Ryan Hanrahan from Connecticut. If I'm maybe pronouncing his name wrong, I don't agree with some of the. I would get it from the network maps that get put out, but he has some good posts and knowledge sometimes. See, I mean, they're out there. Content WX because he doesn't rely on guidance at all. Um, Again, may not be perfect in accuracy sometimes at the end stretch, but who is? He puts out good information. He gets a lot of stuff during hurricane season pushed his way for disagreements on opinions, but the forecasting itself is pretty good for him. So, and he's really pretty open minded, even though he just has opinions. So, those are some people that on X that are pretty good. I'm sure I'm forgetting some as well. I would really stay away from a lot of for. I don't want to say like stay away from the younger people, but for in terms of consistent accuracy, now it's good to get perspective. It's good to have different stuff, but just keep that in mind for like to truly learn from. And this shouldn't be a shocker. Like you're not gonna like sure maybe a few of your classmates are really smart, but the teacher is who you're gonna tend to learn your information from older. So that's kind of just like an obvious thing, right? You go to the older people for they have more, the wiser information. That's really all it comes from. They've seen more. Plenty of smart up and coming people as well, which gives me hope eventually for a lot of people. But a lot of people right now are still learning. But I see a lot of great passionate minds out there of young people, which gives me good hope. It's just I hope they get the right energy of and knowledge and direction, the right pathway. Right pathway is key for using that passion for good. Let's take a look here at ensembles here in this range. Okay. There we go. Back it up a little bit. Still not quite. Well, we'll see. A little bit. Well, I like the ridging. This really isn't as bad as many people would think. And I'll show. Let's see if we get panels. Well, look at the temperatures. Look at the ensemble average temperatures. See that? Nothing about that says torch. That's cold air on tap. With the right track, you can get snowstorm. But let's look at the panels. Well, here's the first system. And that definitely looks a bit more interesting than what a lot of these ensembles had just even a day or two ago. And you see this too. All of this guidance here, this leading edge, that pummels main. But it just lets you know kind of what we're talking about in some of the margins here. But let's see here. The Jersey Devil, welcome. And we got some snowstorms here, showing up in the longer range here on the ensembles. So maybe a little less frequent than the amount you were seeing several days ago in some of these time frames. But I wonder how many you got that January 4th to 5th? Any? Any have it? There's some close. But really, especially into the mid-Atlantic, I'd be keeping an eye on January 4th to 5th. I'd be keeping an eye on it. But yeah, there's some. There's a couple, but definitely not the consistency. It's not going to be there yet. But I would be keeping an eye. Just keep an eye late this weekend. This right here. How does that compare to the actually ensemble? I don't know why we lisp there, but the ensemble is even a little bit more intriguing. Definitely showing a little bit more spread here, but let's see. let's see how much more we can back this up, because really the key is about getting this out in front. Um, and to be honest, it gives the Mid-Atlantic a little bit more margin for error when this doesn't have to go as far up. Even though the linkage you're seeing here is for snow here, and that's possible still, I'd be keeping an eye. Mid-Atlantic. Not that the Northeast can as well, but you might have a little bit harder. Or if one thing also is if you just bump up the southern stream, if this becomes a little less forecasted, then maybe that gives you a little bit more margin for error to I-95 Northeast. But you can see the linkage. It's close. It wouldn't shock me. Just this is your piece right here. This is your piece right here. Link these two, and you can get a big snowstorm. And I really like the look of this. I know other people won't, but this is what I want to see. 280, 300 hours out is dynamic system that models will likely underestimate the optics of the pattern. And this is we continuously run into this problem. People crap on models and then also post them and say it's going to be a warm-up or it's going to be freezing. They claim stuff based on the models, and then when it actually happens, we'll say models suck. You can't play both sides of the spectrum here. You just can't. You just can't play both sides of the spectrum. You just can't. Speaking from someone who's on it, it doesn't work like that. That was not a joke. Yeah, I don't discuss personal, but yeah. I see patterns very well for a reason. You just can't play both sides. You have to be able to forecast accurately. And using models to do that is not the best way. Relying on models is not the best way to do that. Use them as a tool. Use models as a tool, not a forecast. All of a sudden, models just want to rate in the long range, want to take out this massive negative NAO. Just take it out completely. Good luck. Good luck doing that. Euro doesn't as much though. Euro holds on to it, even it still does that, but I'm sorry, that's just not going to happen. I'd be shocked. I don't want to say it can't, but I would be shocked you do that. And even then, towards the end of that, it's really still the cold air is on tap, but that's another point for reading 500 millibar maps. You snore a little louder over there, Tatum. Jesus. But you can see it. There's a lot of upper level energy to work with. see it on the Euro too. 100 hours out, this is where we're at. Things can change. I wouldn't guarantee that we're going to see the change enough for a snowstorm there, but it's possible. But a lot of my time and energy past couple of days has been the system first. So yeah. All right. What do you say, guys? We make a snow map like I promised. How does that sound? Reminder: hit the like if you haven't already. I'm terrible at saying that, but there's also, you can see the little dollar sign in the bottom. There's super chats available if you want to show extra support. That's not necessary. And you also can be a channel member if you truly wish to be as well. But and eventually, as we get more notable, those channel membership perks will be real. Sounds good, Jersey Devil? Well, let's do it. You say so. I'm on board. Let's fricking go. Okay. So here's our last threat map. I think we made this a few days out from the system. 2 to 3 days out, if I remember correctly. Yeah, about a couple days out. Good reminder on the like. Well, thank you. So we made this a couple days out. Not bad. It was pretty good. It's pretty good idea. It's kind of the same areas we've been drawing for days. Again, we had some snow get down to here, but kind of not full front end thump, but kind of just a neutral burst out ahead, and then front end thump was reserved more for these areas, especially the crossing to here. But we ended up getting plowable all the way down into here as well. And I think there was, we did the fringe as well pretty good. So last threat map, it was successful. So definitely not a failure whatsoever, not even close. Which, that's what we're going for. All right. We're going to take off the pen tool for a second, save some battery. Hold up. First, I need to get my my idea for how this might progress again. So we're going to have it here on my iPad loaded as well. For me, so I don't have to switch screens for you guys. I can just stay focused. Let's see. Do I try to account for the lake effect? I mean, we'll try, I guess. We will do our best. Very try. We'll try. Very good. Okay. Let's do our best here. Well, I mean, everywhere is in line for a coating, so this makes my life so much easier with this base layer. bit though, make my life easier. Then I go again. Not sure why I don't do this more often. The zoom in. So much easier. We gotta take that off. I mean, everywhere is in line here for coding, so this makes my life the large systems make my life so much easier for this. It saves me time. Because, I mean, sometimes these things take hours, guys. They can take a lot. The threat maps usually not. But the snow maps themselves, they take a long time. Because I'm really detail oriented. It's kind of just born that way. Has benefits for some stuff, like this, for accuracy, but other stuff not as beneficial. All right, layer 1 complete. So it'll probably be a 2-layered map, but there'll be multiple. So we'll go, I mean, really into here, just because. But there's going to be that drop off there in the Hudson Valley. So it'll look something like that, probably. We'll try to get too specific. We'll limit the OCD. Again, if you have questions upcoming here, now is kind of a perfect time because making the snow map, so not really breaking anything down at the moment. It's pretty obvious these places here are getting a lot of snow. In Syracuse, getting 20 inches in one day. Come on now. Eventually, stay patient. We'll get there. It's hard because the Finger Lakes don't really get into as good as the other places do. Well, for the sake of smoothing it out. Okay. Now we gotta try to do the elevation thing, and that's always tricky. Um, Something happened. There we go. And then, I mean, I guess we can try to do Mount Washington as well. Oh, Patrick Greeny sent 5 BGWX memberships. Well, congratulations to Mr. Storm, DJ Slankman, Jersey Devil, Walter Brownick, and GK Weather. You are all now BGWX members thanks to Patrick Greeny. So thank you, Patrick. I appreciate it very much. I don't know you remember you that well, but I do now. So thank you, Patrick. Very much appreciated. Um, with that, I will now. I will actually make some money as a result. My first time ever as because of that. So thank you very much. Because yeah, apparently you have to hit a certain amount in order to get that. So you helped me do that, and you also gave some people some memberships. So very much appreciated. Okay, next pen tool now. Do we? How are we gonna do this? So I do our little. Yeah, we'll do a lot of Northern Vermont. I guess why not? Why not? Bills fan for life, Alan. How you doing? I'm a Patriots fan, so you and I are currently battling. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm not gonna lie. I'm glad the Patriots will not have to play you guys in the first round because I think it would mean more if we were to face more. And I think a conference championship between Bills and Patriots would be awesome. So, but we're gonna add another layer here. And we're kind of gonna go like this. No, you're good. I hate the Dolphins. All right. I feel like the Dolphins can't be that hateable though, because they're just not that good. I hate playing there though for my guys. Yeah, I call them my guys. Just so humid down there. Worry about them passing out or something. Always getting exhausted right away, but It should be good. Yeah, but you can very well make the case that both of our teams have the best quarterbacks in the AFC right now, given the other one's currently on an ACL. So that's something we both got going in. Potentially two MVP quarterbacks as well now after last night. I mean, I love Matthew Stafford as a quarterback, but I'll always want my Drake May to go get the MVP if he can. The win over the Jets is crazy. The Jets actually, yeah, they're not good. They're not a good football team right now. But he was making it look way too easy still for the Jets. It would make it look way too easy. All right, now this is what many of you are interested in. This is what we're gonna go with. We're gonna do part of Long Island, and then we're gonna go. Do I want to extend it? Ugh, I just don't think so. I just don't think so. I'm gonna leave it there for now. I don't know if I want to go that. Nope. All right, this is where we need to zoom in. Well, we don't want to do that either because I think there's a pretty well modeled snow squall that helps boost stuff there into the northern part of the county. So I don't want to dismiss that as well, but kind of go like that. And we'll kind of slide it just along the coast. Do I want to extend it even more sooner? I think I do. I'm not gonna underestimate the main potential here. And we'll kind of go like that. All right. We got a bit more detail than I was anticipating, but now let's smooth it out here. You don't really need to smooth out that. Don't. No. I'm sure some people in Western New York feel dismissed by how I don't account for the lake effect as much, but we're gonna do better with that this storm. At least with the threat map. kind of want to include the potential I don't know how this is going to look. It just did not look good. It did not look good on 2 minutes. Whoa, don't do that. Oh, that looks kind of sick, actually. I'm not going to lie. That looks really cool. I would not expected that. That looks really cool, but we're not doing that for that. We'll see how this looks. We're going to try something. Oh, no. Don't do that. What? Opacity. Oh, here we go. But see, I don't want that. I don't want it to shade it another. I want to make my own like shaded area over that. But it's like tilting the color. I don't want it to do that. Maybe we have to get away from. Hold on. And I want it to go to, because what I'm going to try to do here, like, yes, banding potential through here, and that's what I want. So that areas on the fringes, let's say it's up here, and it's, or if it's less than, I highlight that it's, you know, that there's a banding is the reason why. Also, why did it cut off like that? We're gonna have to draw this more. Yeah, that's fine. How do I want to do this? Don't do that. Okay. So, oh, because we got to go over all the layers. Okay, I think this will work. All right. I have an idea. Now, there we go. That is what I'm going for. But don't go over that. All right, let's just refine it. And 25. It looks a little funny, but what if we feather it? There we go. But now it looks just darker. And I don't like that either. Let's see if we choose white here. Okay. No, we're gonna have to pull this lower. I think I know where. And then let's raise this just barely. I think we have to throw this higher up again. You see the details that go into this stuff here? And then we're going to even try to find an even different color. Nope, that don't do it. And we gotta stay with the white. And then we gotta draw this again then. And then we gotta put enhanced banding potential. Now we gotta do arrows. Because I'm detail oriented. I don't care, it would be easier, whatever. Until I get it how I want it, I take my time. All right, let's get some arrows here. Well, let's get a text box first. This one, let's adjust this first. Allowable snow possible. It's fine. Oh, now how do we get arrows? Again, perfect time to comment questions and stuff about really anything weather related upcoming here. Okay, come on. I'm sure WX Twitter will see this and go crazy, but who gives a crap? My map, my rules. Press the U-shape tool. All right. What U-shape tool? Oh, press U. I don't want to. You fell asleep again. Well, it's not. I don't blame you. But at least you woke up and the map was complete. Almost. Right now, I'm trying to manufacture Photoshop to get arrows, because then I can go both of these places. You know, the double arrow, enhanced banding. That's what I'm trying to get to. Why does Photoshop make this so hard? Or can I just draw on it? That color has to be way different though. Right, get me out of that. That's what. Is there a line tool maybe? No, go with the brush tool. But I need a different, you gotta give me a darker color here. Oh, okay, now we go. And now it's extremely thick. That's too thick. I have clean minds when I say that, people. It looks not bad. but I don't know if I want that color. You're gonna make me reset this? Jeez. Okay. I'm actually gonna make that. Now we're talking. Locally enhanced FGen banding. Bold it. And then we gotta put something under. Shape. This is how we extend out a threat map into an hour-long process. All right, now we're cooking. But I'm gonna get very specific here. kind of be like a throwback map when I used to put those little. Any of you OGs would remember when we just did Southern New England maps, the little highlighted areas, and I put a big text box explaining the map. To provide more context, and now we don't do that as much, but so people will have to zoom in on this a little bit. All right. We'll see how this goes over. What do you guys think? Well, we gotta add the top, the rectangle. We started this thing there like 90 minutes ago. This is a long save here. This will be the last 2025 threat map. Almost the exact same time. I think we started right around here, so that's what we'll go with. Oh, this is gonna be so weird. This is gonna be so weird. Whoa, 26. Whoa. All right. Yeah. No errors there. Looks solid. We got to do this though, because this is my first New Year's system where we have to change the year. I think that I had to make a snow map for. So. All right. What do y'all think? You see any mistakes on here besides the actual forecast itself? I don't think so. No spelling errors, nothing like that. This is where you guys keep me accountable and in check here. So we'll go. outline this. No, it's not. We've done enough. Let's file, export. And then we gotta post this both places here. Post it into YouTube first, and then we'll go into X second. I'm sure X will have a field day over this, but it's not really my concern. We'll quit Photoshop here. Okay. Still being saved. But I can't. Yeah, I know I'm a YouTube partner. Now look through here. If you really do, don't be afraid. There we go. Very nice. Hey, Alaska. Well, what about Alaska? Are you asking something about Alaska? Yes, we do have the NFL fan person is from Alaska. If you were looking up in the chat, but and I'm gonna leave the live pinned here. Not gonna pin the snowfall map as much as I usually like to. Just so people can come back to this. I think the live is more important than the snowfall map. Plowables are around 3-ish usually, so usually there's a little leeway, but let's see what people think about that. NFL fan. Yeah, there's our Alaska person. Just kind of saying hi to him. He's here. I think it's a he. I could be wrong. I don't want to. I'm pretty sure. Correct me if not. It's kind of cool. I like this maroonish. You see the maroonish kind of. It kind of looks really cool. Actually, I'm not gonna lie. All right. My phone has been acting up there. Easy. Oh, do you know him, or are you just saying hi within the chat? Will refine tomorrow. All right. Okay. Well, I guess we can take a look at the HRR, and then we can head up on out of here. Hopefully. Sometimes you never know. It wouldn't shock me if 30 minutes later we're still here, but it's really trying to pop it. Not sure I like that look. But man. Yeah, that squall line is going to hold together pretty nicely. It's like maybe slightly less amplified on this run, but we're looking 29 hours out on the HRR, so it's a little sketchy when you're doing that. But slows down the evolution, the progression as well. So I don't know. P-type maps can be a bit fickle, but doesn't look. Maybe slightly slower with the progression of things. But it's holding on, you can see. Holding on for longer. Which, if we hold on to saturation for longer, that's not going to be a bad thing. So, a slower evolution of things. It's not going to be a bad thing at all. You kind of notice that. See the difference? This is 10 to 1, by the way. You want to go to the Kachera, and that's not accounting for the ratios enough. It's just not. But we'll see here. If we didn't if we slow down the progression, as my voice changes. If we slow down the progression and keep it amplified, see how it's trying to amplify up here and down here. There's multiple spots. This is really the spot it wants to up look. I wonder if this is such high resolution amplification here, taken off with this and not amplifying this part enough. Because when you get to these high resolution models, they really like to resolve certain spots. Like, I think this is a little bit, it smooths it out a bit more. Versus here is like trying to go here and here. Even though it's I mean, it's not necessarily, it ends up being a faster evolution down the line, but it lifts it a bit more north here, the overall trough as well, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Well, you got 5 to 8 inches coming Monday through Tuesday. I'll take that. I don't think anybody's denying that. But I would love to look at some of those soundings under the hood as well. But let's see this one more time. No, we're supposed to. We should not be running Photoshop anymore. Photoshop should be done. Or is it just saying that? At least what the GFS is saying. Oh boy. I don't want to rely on that. Let's see this. Damn, it's 15 hours out, so. Yeah, it's. Lifting this a little north as well, so we'll see. But we'll call it there. I appreciate everybody for tuning in again. This is my mop. These are my thoughts. I will refine this tomorrow, and we'll go from there. But this is a sneaky setup. This is a sneaky setup, and I don't think enough are realizing the potential here with this one. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's being advertised as properly by others, but I don't think so. I think this is very sneaky for heavy snow potential within a quick time frame. Packs a quick punch, and all of a sudden there's this random stripe of like 5 to 8 inches or more. It wouldn't shock me. And I'm going to wait till tomorrow to explicitly forecast that. But for now, I think a widespread 2 to 5 is certainly possible across a lot of this area here, and there's potential for a stripe of more. So keep that in mind. All right, that's all I got for now. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, and until next time, peace. Thank you, Jersey Devil.